John Ronald Reuel Tolkien was born in 1892 in South Africa. He was a writer, poet, military servant, philologist, linguist, and British University professor, but he is mainly known for being the author of the heroic fantasy novels The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Nowadays, the Silmarillion, The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings form a connected body of tales, poems, fictional histories, and invented languages about fantasy of a world called Arda. All this world created from his imagination and his dreams. A few years later, he dies with 82 years old, being and considered nowadays as the father of the modern fantasy literature.
Tolkien's immediate paternal antecessors were middle-class craftsmen. The Tolkien family ranached in the 8th Prussian town. John Ronald Reuel Tolkien was born in 3 January 1892 in Bloemfontein, and he lived here until First World War. Tolkien had one brother, younger than him, Hilliard Arthur Reuel Tolkien. His father died in South Africa because of a fever in 1901. Later, when he was 12 years, his mother died because of acute diabetes. Tolkien could read by the age of 4 and could write very soon too. Prior to her death, Mabel Tolkien has assigned the guardianship for her son to her close friend, Francis Xavier Morgan. Tolkien had his first encounter with a construct language, Anamalic, an inventor of his cousin Mary and Martius. During a few years, he was studying Latin and Anglo-Saxon. They interested in Anamalic soon died away, but Mary and others, including Tolkien himself, invented a new and more complex language called Nebwösch. The next constructed language he came to work with Neferin will be his own creation. At the age of 16, Tolkien met Edith Mary Bratt. After Edith Bratt and Ronald Tolkien married at Santa Mary Immaculate Roman Catholic Church, where he. A few years later, Ronald Tolkien went to the First World War, but on 3 November 1920, Tolkien was left to the armory. During his time at Pembroke College, Tolkien worked at The Hobbit and his first 2 volumes of The Lord of the Rings. During his life in retirement, Tolkien received sterling increasing public attention and literary fame. In 1961, his friend Lewis even nominated him for the Nobel Prize in Literature. Finally, he dies because of a pneumonia with 81 years.
Tolkien wrote narrative and poems. In fact, Tolkien published his first poem, The Battle of Eastfield, in 1911, when he was only 19 years old. He was very interested in Old English and Anglo-Saxon. In fact, he wrote a lot of works in this language, including the anonymous poem Chris I. Inspired by that poem, he wrote the poem The Journey of Eärendil. And he continues writing a lot of poems and narratives during his life, a lot of them related with his mythology and with the Middle Earth. Also, he has a lot of poems that in the future will be a very big inspiration for one of his best narrative novels, The Silmarillion. Now, talking about the narrative, Tolkien wrote a lot of narrative, not just poems, and he wrote a very good narrative. After he became a very important author in poems, he wrote the story Reverendum as a story for his sons and his children. But this was a very good story, and so it became famous too. The Silmarillion, one of the most important novels of this author, starts with only an idea. He was writing a scam of his mythology of the Middle Age, and this scam ended up transforming into an epic story. But we don't know why, but Tolkien never published the story. A few years later, finally, Christopher, the son of Tolkien, wrote the final of this story in the story of the Middle-earth. Another famous novel that started just like idea, just like a story for kids, was The Hobbit. The Hobbit was a book that he wrote for his own children, and that passed from hand to hand, from person to person, without the author's intervention. Finally, this book reached an employee of the London publishing house, George Allen and Arwen. Thanks to this employee, the story was published. Nowadays, this novel, as The Lord of the Rings, is very popular. Also, this novel and The Lord of the Rings had very good films in the cinema. Both are epic novels that narrate the adventures of a hobbit who, along with the magician Gandalf and company of dwarves, will be involved in a journey to recover the kingdom of the Middle-earth. The most popular novel of the author, Lord of the Rings, started just like a sequel of The Hobbit. During 10 years, Tolkien was writing this incredible novel. The original intention of Tolkien to start writing The Lord of the Rings was that it was a story for the children, like The Hobbit. But then he remembered the ring that Bilbo found in The Hobbit and decided to center the story around him and the future of the ring, becoming the story darker and more serious. As The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings became a very popular novel during the 1960s and 1970s, and also has his own very good films.
Tolkien was a devout Roman Catholic, and in his religious and political views, he was mostly a traditionalist moderate, with libertarian and monarchist leanings, in the sense of favoring the innovation and modernization. During the years, his point of view changed, and in some cases, his opinions were close to the atheist ones. According to his grandson Simon Tolkien, in the last years of his life, was disappointed by some of the liturgical reforms and change implemented after the Second Vatican Council. Now we will talk about his political ideas. Tolkien voiced support for the nationalists, eventually led by Franco during the Spanish Civil War. Upon hearing that communist Republicans were destroying churches and killing priests and nuns, Tolkien didn't like Joseph Stalin. During World War II, Tolkien referred to Stalin as that bloodthirsty old murderer.
And now you know it. Tolkien was the father of the modern literature, but also it was a person who made people dream, believe, and smile. So, thank you.